Hey there, teachers. School of Tomorrow. I'm starting out on an error page. Some of you might be finding that NB Viewer, which we rely on quite a bit, is not always up to snuff. Neither is GitHub, of course, when it comes to rendering Jupyter notebooks. That's not its main job. And when it gets behind, that's maybe triage, the first to go. Anyway, from last night's class here on my ends, just did some. See, we're building towards RSA, the public key crypto algorithm, figuring out how it works, why it works. And to get there, we need some basics about prime numbers, composites, and so on. And it's not normally conventionally part of high school in the late 1900s when I was going to high school, and ever since there's been not a lot of adaptation. And what this channel is about, for those of you new, is the industry missed. That's the tagline, which is adapting our aerospace knowledge to the project to terraform Earth, as we call it. It's like as we go to Mars, we're always thinking about how we would create these high tech residencies and what it would be like to colonize Mars. Well, what's it like to colonize Earth? That's what we've been doing. I mean, the word colonize, for one, has a bad reputation, I understand. And a lot of us are misanthropic. It's like we don't like the humans that much. They're really messing up the planet and so on. So there's all that stuff, that global stuff to talk about. Like if I was a high school teacher today, and I am in the gig economy sense, right? But like the classic full time high school teacher, which is not really what I'm applying for because at this point it's to you, the teachers, that I talk the most, and you turn around and put together whatever you think is the best programming possible for your region. I'm not in charge. But out here in the Silicon Forest, we see that in order to understand current history, what's going on, like infrastructure, like gas lines, pipelines, electrical grids. If you want to follow the debates, which are going on everywhere, especially on YouTube for me, then there's sort of a minimal kind of math you need. Now, data science is included in that. And when I talk about global networks and infrastructure, it's not just about topology and polyhedrons, even though that's what it sounds like in synergetics. And yes, we do say synergetics because in order for anyone to understand recent history, you also need to know what Dianetics was, right? Just to be fair. In other words, it's not like I'm trying to cram occult down your throats by talking about what went on in history. So if you don't endorse synergetics, let alone Dianetics, you're not forced to do so merely to explain what's in it. And then you can immediately, as a teacher, express your humble opinion, right? It's part of your job, I would say, as a teacher, when you come to math topics, to express yourself honestly about whether you think this is worthwhile. Normally there's a lot of consensus in the math world, but there isn't always. Like, there's been tumultuous times. We don't always teach about that, like with Newton and calculus. I'm not talking about the fight with Leibniz, I'm talking about the fight with Berkeley about infinitesimals to begin with and all that, rhetoric, polemics. The idea that math is free of polemics is ahistorical. So I say all that because part of this curriculum, and I think it's no longer going to be seen as threatening, is to look at this coordinate system I call quadrays, but we're just talking about it as syntactic sugar now. It's got XYZ at the core in the sense that it's kind of a wrapper around XYZ. I think we can put it that way. And that makes people a lot happier than there's always the illusion, the incorrect impression that this is about a hostile takeover and that somehow those of us into the Bucky stuff are in fantasy of seizing power in some way, like taking away math and making it be our math or some weird cult fantasy like that. But there's no basis for that. It's more like here's some up to date curriculum from my point of view that, in order to explain American history and talk about the housing shortage and prices and all this kind of adult grid talk, in order to participate effectively in the world game, there are certain conversations you want to join. And to do that intelligently, it helps to have a lot of background in the relevant math. And so, what is the relevant math? And I'm showing you some of it. It's a lot more number theory and group theory than we had in my day, and that stands to reason. That's what's happened in the intervening history. We have had the public key crypto revolution, you could say. And what does that mean? And what does it mean that it's in every browser? I don't care if you're talking RSA or elliptic curve or whatever. What are we even talking about? And it's not right to leave that to the code schools or something, to have you go through 4 years of high school and come out not knowing that. It's not right. So that's why what I call elite school is really just trying to be the basics. Pascal's triangle and that connection, you need to have the AKS primality test in your curriculum. It's an important breakthrough, and it's a measure of the laziness and complacency of a curriculum that it doesn't update. And I think especially Americans, sorry to pick on y'all, but when you think you're a superpower and kind of in charge, it's like, why do we need to update? We're in charge. It's like we set the pace. We're in charge. And there's a lack of humility before nature. I guess I'd say nature, right? It's not like I'm trying to say there's another nation state that's going to wipe you out, but you're going to wipe yourselves out if you're not able to keep your curriculum relevant to what's going on. It's a disservice to your own kids, and then they have lots of debt. But did they learn any Bucky stuff at all when they paid that money, right? So I'm teaching this stuff for free, and I hope you guys will lurk in and pick up what you're missing and move on with your lives, empowered and encouraged. So I talked to the teachers, School Tomorrow teachers, about the technical details. But if that's something you're not trying to get into right now, then I would say just sample a few other YouTubes. Look for interesting titles because there's a lot of history here I talk about. Vietnam War, other things like that. It goes back to the 1800s in terms of Bucky's own life. And his daughter Allegra just passed away, so that's been rippling all through our network here, which is a global network of people who've been studying the Bucky stuff since before I was born. So when I came to the scene, it was already a big deal. So I just have been continuing a big deal. I don't feel like I'm the founder of this kind of knowledge, obviously. Tetra volumes. It was all published in the 70s, and I was born in the late 50s. All right, we'll talk to you soon.